help if it's positive. We didn't perform Desmin at this point because it was not suggestive of we have the small muscle active. This is the immunohistochemistry, so B19 was positive, CD31 was showing vascular space, but it was negative on the majority of the lesion. And in fact, the cytokeratin were not performed in this. I think we need to do the cytokeratin, but they were not performed, the cytokeratin 5-6 and also P63. So, because of the vascular aspect, we had this case afterwards. So on the first biopsy, they performed B19, CD31, CD34 factor 8, and they didn't perform the cytokeratin, and because of the vascular aspect, the diagnosis of PASH was retained, despite CD34 negativity. But it could be that, but we don't have the result from the cytokeratin. So we had the case 2 years later. It's always easier when you have the case afterwards. So in March 2006, the patient is referred to our institution for local recurrence, and it's a 2 centimeter. It's a 2 centimeter lesion, and it's very suspicious clinically. This is the aspect that we have. So it's a fusocellular lesion, undifferentiated. This is the aspect we have. 65. So this is the aspect that we have in the lesion. And the most likely diagnosis here, so we have different options. We have a sarcoma of the breast. We have a fibromatosis of the breast. I didn't show you the periphery of the lesion, but it could be an aspect because it's rather bland at low magnification. It could be a PASH because it was supposed to be a PASH initially, but it's probably not that. It could be a metaplastic carcinoma, and it could be a myofibroblastoma, even if the cells are not very plumpy and everything. So the immunohistochemistry choice here could be basically the same, at least for CD34, but here we really need to do the cytokeratin, the basal cytokeratin, because the diagnosis of metaplastic carcinoma is really something that we should have in mind in this type of lesion, even in this setting, because the lesion is recurrent. And in fact, the case was strongly CD56 positive, CK56 positive. It was P63 positive here. It was CD34 negative, CD31 negative, and it was weakly pancytokeratin positive. So here we go back to the first lesion. We asked for the blocks of the first lesion. And also, if you look at the periphery of the first lesion, because we didn't know that, we first received biopsy, but the patient had a surgery at the first time. And in fact, if you look at the periphery of the lesion, you can see an infiltrative aspect in the periphery of the lesion with type of infiltrative margins, and also some areas on the first tumorectomy where you had a lot of atypia. But in fact, it was completely misdiagnosed, this case. It was first diagnosed in a biopsy as a PASH. In another hospital, it was diagnosed as a fibromatosis with atypia. And in fact, it's a metaplastic carcinoma. So in front of a spindle cell lesion of the breast, it's very important to go at high magnification also. And always exclude a metaplastic carcinoma. This is the big message here. Always think that you can have a metaplastic carcinoma, completely undifferentiated, completely fusocellular, and it's useless to do pancytokeratin. You really need there to do cytokeratin 5-6 or to do cytokeratin 14 or 15, or to do the other basal marker like P63, for instance. And P63 can be widely positive. So here the importance is not to forget the possibility of the carcinoma. Sorry?
Why? Cytokeratin was not done at the time.
I don't know. It was not in my hospital.
First possible diagnosis, even the specimen looks complete, it's a combined, is a combined.
Yes.
Common things are common.
Yes, I agree with you, but it was not done, and we received the case 2 years later with a recurrence in the breast, and the patient died, unfortunately. So this is another case. The patient is 28 years old, so it's completely different presentation. She has an ACR5 lesion in the breast, which is measuring 1.7 centimeter. And you have here the aspect of the lesion, which is not very well limited. So this is the aspect that we have. So it's you can see that you have entrapped in the proliferation adipose tissue. You have some lymphocytic infiltrate, some nodules of some lymphocytic nodules with this aspect of fusocellular lesion, with also the adipose tissue which is entrapped in the lesion. This is the aspect of the cells. They are rather bland. There is not much mitotic figures. So here again we have potential diagnoses. Low-grade angiosarcoma, probably not. I just keep the set side. Fibromatosis, so it's a possibility clearly here. PASH, no. Metaplastic carcinoma, always exclude that, even in this young patient. And myofibroblastoma, I don't think it looks like myofibroblastoma. So, what type of immunohistochemistry can we do if we want to go for the diagnosis? Okay. So here, I thought it was fibromatosis. So I didn't do any immunohistochemistry because for me the aspect was typical of fibromatosis. But I wanted to rule out metaplastic carcinoma. So that's why I did the basal cytokeratin. So I did cytokeratin 5-6. But you could have performed none if you are very confident. But with the other case, I think we should be cautious and do that. We can do also CD34, that can be positive. The case number 3, it's a 37 years old woman. She has no particular clinical history. She presented with a clinical aspect of multiple hematomas. It was a very strange clinical presentation. And on clinical and ultrasound presentation, she had a unique breast nodule that was hypoechoic. So, 37, no history, no clinical history, multiple hematomas, and this breast nodule. And you can see this breast nodule, you have a kind of papillary lesion with proeminent cells, some slits, and some more or less vascular aspects here. So here, among the possible differential diagnoses that we have, really can be a low-grade angiosarcoma for this tumor. So when she had surgery, the lesion was nodular, well circumscribed, so it was a primary angiosarcoma, which is not very frequent. Usually the angiosarcoma are secondary angiosarcoma after radiation therapy in the breast or more frequently on the arm in a context of lymphadenoma. So she had all the characteristics of low-grade angiosarcoma, vascular proliferation, atypia, and mitosis. She has some areas that were less well differentiated, and that's true, but if we were having that on the biopsy and not the other aspect that I showed you, it would have been much more difficult because here it's less differentiated. So that's why you should also try to look if you have some area that could be suggestive of, when you see a spindle cell lesion, that could be suggestive of a special type of spindle cell lesion. And for the immunohistochemistry, of course, it's quite easy, and the lesion was positive for CD31, but also, and it's of course completely normal for CD34. So it was a primary angiosarcoma in the breast. But I told you that this lady had multiple hematomas, and in fact, it's a very strange clinical presentation, this patient, because 6 months later, she had liver metastasis. And this is a liver biopsy, so we have the same aspect of angiosarcoma with anastomotic vascular channels, atypical spindle cells. But she also had, when we look at our blood figures, she was having anemia, but she was having also abnormal leukocytes and abnormal lymphocytes and plaquette issues. So she was having decrease in the different elements. And in fact, she was having a bone marrow involvement. And in the bone marrow, she was also having foci of angiosarcoma. So it was very unusual, and it was a kind of, we never published this case, we should, because it was a kind of multiple angiosarcoma disease. I look in the literature, and it has been described very few times, and she was not presenting any kind of syndrome that could explain this type of very strange lesion. So she had hematomas, the breast lesion that was the first lesion to be diagnosed, but then she had liver metastasis plus bone marrow involvement. It was a strange case. So this patient is 66 years old. She was having mass screening, 7 is not supposed to be there. The lesion is ACR5 at mammography. And the core needle biopsy was saying it's not contributive. It's scarring tissue. We don't know what it is. So she had a zonectomy that was wire guided. So she was referred to our institution for the zonectomy. And at gross examination, it was a firm lesion that was vaguely limited. So this is the aspect that we have. So we have a kind of fibromatosis aspect with peripheral nodules, lymphocytic nodules, kind of collagen bones and fibroblastic tissue. With entrapment of the adipose tissue. And then you can see from some parts that you can have some glands that are also present. So you go to higher magnification, and you see that it's not a fibromatosis. It looks like a fibromatosis, but if you go to an higher magnification, you can see that you have some areas with glands, some areas that are cellular and that looks from this magnification with bigger cells, like cords of cells. This is another aspect where you have this type of areas with cords of cells in the breast. Other area here, where you have some epidermoid metaplasia or some squamous carcinoma areas. And this is what the majority of the lesion looks like. So if we look at low magnification, first aspect is the fibromatosis, and then when we go to higher magnification, we see that we have tumor cells, that we have some aspects of cords of tumors, that we have some aspect of metaplasia, and that we have some aspects of, but very few of glands. Like here, where you have those type of aspects, and you have also isolated or fusocellular tumor cells. You go to a higher magnification, you see that they look like malignant cells. Some aspects here like that with fusocellular cells. This could be something like, it could be maybe keratin bundles here, we are not completely sure. And here you have clearly epidermoid differentiation. So possible diagnosis can be a fibromatosis, but with what we have seen, it could be a complex sclerosing lesion, but very complex. It could be an adenosquamous carcinoma of low grade. It could be a fasciitis. It could be a sclerosing papilloma in some areas, but not. It could be a scar or a biopsy scar, or it could be in some areas that I've shown you, instead of being a squamous differentiation, it could be DCIS. So it's probably an adenosquamous carcinoma low grade, but we have to rule out a complex sclerosing lesion, unusual, with a lot of collagen and few glands and very few glands remaining. So what type of immunohistochemistry can we use? Vimentin, calponine, pan-cytokeratin, cytokeratin 14, 5-6, P63, small muscle actin, desmin, known. Are you confident to give the diagnosis without any immunohistochemistry, or do you want to add other immunohistochemistry? So what would be your choice here? The cytokeratin first? Pan-cytokeratin? So this would be my suggestion, personal suggestion. So this is the pan-cytokeratin, which is positive in majority of the cells. It could have been negative or at least positive in the metaplastic area, but not in the spindle cell, but here it was positive everywhere. This is the SMA, smooth muscle actin, where you can see some staining also. This is the anti-calponine, where you can see that it doesn't stain the tumor by themselves. You can see the cytokeratin 5-6, which is highly positive, even unusual for a cytokeratin 5-6 in my experience to be so much positive. We have some cases like that, but it's usually less positive than that. But here it was highly positive, so we are on near to be a triple negative tumor. This is the anti-P63. So this is a profile of so-called immunohistochemical basal carcinoma. Of course, in parallel, when we have seen that, we perform ER, PR, and HER2 that were negative. This is another aspect of P63. And so it's a low-grade adenosquamous carcinoma. So it's a subtype of metaplastic carcinoma of very good prognosis, as I said this afternoon. We have, in this case, we had infiltrative epithelial structures. Some of them were squamous. Some of them were ductal or cords, and we might have observed some areas that were syringomatous. As you have seen, there is a few mitosis. There is a sclerosedematous and more frequently myofibroblast-rich stroma. Here it was rather sclerous. And we have ill-defined margins, and it can be fibromatosis-like. And in this low-grade squamous carcinoma, we have one variety that is called fibromatosis-like carcinoma, metaplastic carcinoma, and this one could fit into this definition. But it can be associated with sclerosing papilloma, adenosis, sclerosing adenosis. So we have to be sure that if we want to measure the lesion correctly and to evaluate the margin, that we don't have this type of lesions. That's why it's important also to look at actin and calponin to see if we have a staining of the lesion. And we have for the cells by themselves a positivity of cytokeratin 5,6 and P63, and the tumor was triple negative. So some areas were almost acellular, like there, and there are all other aspects of the lesions. And here it was the HER2 that was negative, and the ER and PR staining that were also negative. Other areas with cytokeratin 5,6 and P63. So this is the differential diagnosis, sclerosing papilloma, where we can have squamous metaplasia, but it's usually well circumscribed. We can have a diagnosis of a scar, fibromatosis or fasciitis, but it's negative for the cytokeratin, pancytokeratin and cytokeratin 5,6 and for P63. The metaplastic carcinoma, which is diffusely positive for cytokeratin 5,6, and you have to see if it's high grade or low grade. The nipple serrangomatous adenoma, but you have the clinical presentation and you have myoepithelial cells. And on biopsy only, if you have those type of lesions, you should add in your differential diagnosis a complex sclerosing lesion. The diagnosis is difficult on microbiopsy, and it could really be very tricky, and some people miss the diagnosis on microbiopsy. So we have our eyes have to be attracted by squamous metaplasia, by stromal cellularity, by inflammation, by the absence of elastoenic stroma, if we think of a complex sclerosing lesion, and by aspect of infiltrated margin if we have a biopsy with the adipose tissue. The immunohistochemistry should be careful because sometimes it doesn't help at all between different entities, and do not overdiagnose, because once you think to be entity, you can also have the tendency to overdiagnose it. So be very careful on a biopsy. You can have a suspicion, but really be very careful if you want to put this diagnosis on a biopsy. The prognostic is excellent. The only recurrence that have been described are due to an incomplete local excision, and some evolution to the high-grade carcinoma, usually high-grade metaplastic carcinoma, have been observed, but nevertheless, metastases are exceptional. Then the case 5. So it's a female. She's 58 years old. In 2009, she has an infiltrating ductal carcinoma, SPR grade 222, of 10 millimeters. The tumor was ER positive, 40%, and progesterone positive, 20%. The staining was an HER2 strong, complete immunohistostaining of 10% of invasive cells, and in the rest we were having a moderate complex staining. She had a sentinel lymph node that was negative, and the margins were quite wide. So what was her HER2 status in 2009 by immunohistochemistry? So she had 10% of positive cells. So were she HER2 positive, HER2 ambiguous controlled by ISH, or HER2 negative? Ding, ding, ding. So in 2009, less than 10%, it was 2+. It was not a 3+ case, so she was considered as an ambiguous case. So this was what we had. So we had a complete membrane staining, very intense, but in less than 10% of positive cells, in less than 30% of positive cells. So it was a 2+. So those heterogeneous cases, it was back in 2009. It's not what we have today. It's the rest of my talk. But so those cases that are heterogeneous are rare. And if you see, so it was our case. So we had this area here that was clearly a 3+. We had a small foci here that was also a 3+. And we had other area of the tumors that were 2+. So she had the majority of tumor that was 2+, and this that was a 3+. So the FISH was performed, and the case is amplified. So she was called as HER2 positive. So today, if you had the same case, okay, you will call it HER2 positive. So we can. It's the new guidelines. So you have observed that with these new guidelines, we will have more HER2 positive case, obviously, because we will have this case. We will not fish it. We will say it's positive, and we have also a smaller cutoff for fish. So are we right? We don't know. The future will tell us. If today we are not treating, we will not treat too much patients. But this case, in my opinion, she really has clear foci of 3+ tumor, so I have no problem to call it positive. But as I told you before, I would be very reluctant if this patient is treated by TDM1, because I think that the rest of the tumor needs chemotherapy, because if you treat only by trastuzumab, plus a drug that is attached to trastuzumab, this means that only the HER2 3+ tumors will have the drug, and for the other tumor cells, it will do nothing. So this was just to show you again the immunohistochemistry. So the change in terms of positivity with the cutoff at 10% for 3+. And for the 2+, the adjunction of the incomplete membrane staining in more than 10% of tumor cells, and also the fact that the tumor with less than 10% of complete membrane staining is a 2+. So this change is really important. And this patient with this heterogeneous tumor recur 4 years later. So do you rebiopsy the tumor? Yes? Yes, I think we really need to do that. I cannot show you the results because they are not published yet, but we have worked with colleagues of mine on heterogeneous breast tumor, where we had the chance to have or a node biopsy, a metastatic biopsy, a metastatic node, and we had a biopsy of the node, or a metastasis. And the situation is the following. When you have an heterogeneous tumor, so with 3+ and 2+ area, or with 3+ and negative areas, in our series of 70 cases, which is a rather large series for heterogeneous breast cancer, you have 1/3 of the cases, exactly 1/3, where the node metastasis or the distant metastasis is HER2 positive, homogeneous. 1/3 where the tumor is HER2 negative, homogeneous. and 1/3 where the metastasis is also heterogeneous. So it was not exactly what we thought at the beginning. We thought having heterogeneous tumors, but the most aggressive component, the HER2 positive component, will be the component we will find in the lymph node metastasis or in the distant metastasis. And in fact, in natural history, because those cases were before trastuzumab, in terms of natural history, we can find the three situations completely separately. So you can imagine now, with the adjuvant treatment by trastuzumab, for those cases that you will maybe have still less HER2 positive tumors in the distant metastasis because you will have killed some more tumor with the targeted treatment. So this was just to remind you about the recommendation for the oncologists that we need, at least in some cases, to rebiopsy the metastatic sites. The last case is an 80-year-old woman. 15 years ago, she was diagnosed with an invasive ductal carcinoma, SBR grade 3, ER positive. She's a T2N1 M0 tumor in the left breast. She received chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and she did very well for 15 years. And she came for an examination. The oncologist at the clinical examination found 4 nodules in the right breast, in the upper left quadrant, with a clinical homolateral tumor. So she had breast cancer in the left breast 15 years ago, treated, nothing happened, and then 15 years later she came with 4 nodules in the opposite breast with a positive node. The cytology was performed because she was an old woman, not in a very good condition, so she was not able to stand on the table for the biopsy. She was not able to be lean on her chest. So we tried to do cytology, but it was non-contributive. So the decision, because it was obviously tumors, to perform a right mastectomy. And we found in the right mastectomy 3 tumors, 0.5, 2.3, and 2.5 centimeters, and 1 intramammary node. This is the aspect of the lesion. So it's a kind of well-circumscribed lesion. Like that, it doesn't look like a breast cancer, but it could be a solid lobular carcinoma if you look from high magnification. It still look like lobular carcinoma. It could be a solid lobular carcinoma or an undifferentiated carcinoma. When you look at a higher magnification, it's obviously malignant. The cells are very atypical, and we have some intranuclear inclusions. So the first thing we do, ER, PR, HER2, negative. So triple negative lesion. So the most likely diagnosis is a triple negative lesion with 3 lesions, and the node was also positive, and it was the same aspect, the node in the axillary lesion. So is it a ductal invasive carcinoma? Is it solid DCIS? Is it solid lobular carcinoma? Is it a metastasis in the breast? Or is it a localization of a myeloma? So this was more on some aspects we have here on this part of the lesion. Some of the colleagues said, oh, it could be a myeloma, but it was after the cytokeratin come back being negative. So here, if we try to think what type of diagnosis could it be?
There's a variant of local carcinoma called plasma sarcoid type.
Yes, it could be one. Yes, it could be. It it could be, but what I put in the big bag of solid lobular carcinoma, so a variant of lobular carcinoma, so this is one option. But in fact, it was a metastasis in the breast. But what we did, as I said, we started with ER, PR, HER2, and everything was negative. And one of my colleagues, because it was strange to have 3 different localizations in the breast, completely round, which is not very typical for breast lesions. So it was the clinical presentation, because we have tumor boards with a radiologist, and it was not something that was expected. So we decided to dig more and not to stop on the triple negative lesion. So we have different options here, and in fact we perform different immunohistochemistry. But the case, we started the immunohistochemistry with the epithelial markers, so with the pancytokeratin and EMA, and of course, as I said, we did ER and PR. So they were negative. The tumor was EMA negative, pancytokeratin negative. So that's why we moved to a possible metastasis in the breast, and in fact the tumor was PS100, melana, and HMB45 positive. So it was a metastasis. So here it's a metastasis from a melanoma, of course, with this aspect. And in fact, you know that she was an old lady. In fact, after that, someone really started to look at her. We didn't find any localization on the skin, and in fact, she had a melanoma in the esophagus. She was not lucky with that. So the metastasis to the breast accounts for 1.3% of the mammary tumors. But right now they are increasing in frequency for the only reason that we treat better we treat better the different cancer. So the patients are able to survive longer, and so they can have metastasis everywhere and also in the breast. The age is identical to breast cancer. They are prevalent in 30% of the cases. There is a variable time to onset between the primitive and the metastasis, up to 20 years for a melanoma. And there is a complete absence of standard protocols. So, of course, you know that the first cause of metastasis in the breast is a contralateral breast cancer. And you know that we have some histopathological things that can help us to say it's not a second primary, but it's a metastasis. If you have a round lesion in the breast with absence of ductal in situ carcinoma in the periphery, if it's exactly the same profile as the other breast cancer, this could be in favor of metastasis from the contralateral breast. Among the other tumors, non-Hodgkin lymphomas, leukemia. We had one 3 weeks ago. It was a chronic lymphoid leukemia. Solid tumors, so melanomas are most of the more frequent lesions giving metastasis to the breast. Lung cancer, prostate cancer in men, of course, ovarian cancer, and sometimes it could be very difficult when it's a papillary lesion, because you have a discussion with papillary lesions of the breast if you don't have the clinical history of the patient. And you can have plenty of type of tumors also that can metastasis to the breast. In the context of the child, it could be hematopoietic tumors or rhabdomyosarcoma. So it's finished here. And very recently, I want to publish it, so I have not completely finished the case, but we had a metastasis in the breast from a stromal uterine lesion, from a low-grade stromal endometrial lesion, and we had a metastasis in the breast. exactly the same, and we had the rearrangement, the jazz rearrangement on the molecular level, the same in the tumor and in the breast. So it was a strange case because we didn't have the clinical history of the case. And in fact, when we asked the clinician, we found that she had surgery for the uterine lesion like 5 or 6 years before that, and it was a metastasis from an endometrial stromal lesions. Okay, yes.
Starting from where?
This one was melanoma from the esophagus. But, she died very quickly, the patient with that, unfortunately. But because we look at her from every part and we didn't find anything, any scar, because sometimes you have the metastasis and you have a disappearance of the primary melanoma. But the family really wanted to know. The patient was not asking for anything, but the family was really pushing. And so she had some other exploration, and we find it was a melanoma from the esophagus.
So,
you said that you have done fine needle aspiration cytology for this patient, and it was not contributed.
Yes.
Why?
Because in fact the patient had a very small breast. She was very thin, and it was not contributed because it was bleeding a lot. So when they started to do some fine needle aspiration, she was moving a lot. It was very painful for her. She was not really easy. That's why it was not positive, because we only had blood and no tumor cell. It should have been highly cellular, but because of the patient herself and also because of the aspect of her breast, very tiny breast, it was difficult for the FNA, for the radiologist, so they couldn't perform proper FNA. But here you only put, if she didn't come with a needle, only with a needle, I think just doing that in the breast, you will have cells coming up because it was highly cellular.
You will have the spot diagnosis for the nucleolus of
Yes, and it will be much more easy. I completely agree with you, but unhappily we were not able to have a proper cytology.
any other question, please? Thank you very much. And now